The quantum navigation console hummed with a soft, almost imperceptible vibration that Captain Maya Suzuki had learned to associate with deep space transitions. Her fingers danced across the holographic interface, tracing the intricate web of stellar cartography that mapped the Kepler 452 system in exquisite detail. Each pinpoint of light represented more than just a celestial body. It was a potential story, a mystery waiting to be unraveled. Outside the reinforced viewports of the UES Horizon's edge, the system's primary star burned with an intensity that defied the cold emptiness of space. Kepler 452 was different from the countless other systems she had surveyed during her 15-year career with the Interstellar Exploration Corps. Something about its configuration whispered of possibility. Maya's team had been dispatched on what most would consider a routine planetary assessment mission. The Corps maintained a rigorous protocol for potential colonization sites, comprehensive scans, environmental analyses, geological surveys, and a meticulous evaluation of any existing conditions that might support human expansion. Most missions returned with nothing more exciting than a few geological samples and terabytes of spectral data. But this mission felt different. The ship's advanced sensor arrays had been picking up anomalous readings for the past 72 hours, subtle electromagnetic fluctuations that didn't match any known natural phenomenon. Quantum interference patterns that seemed to suggest something. Maya couldn't quite put her finger on it, but her instincts, honed by years of deep space exploration, were tingling. "Lieutenant Kim," she called out, her voice cutting through the ambient noise of the bridge. "Bring up the comprehensive scan of the third planetary body. I want a full spectrum analysis." Jung-Ho Kim was perhaps the most talented sensor specialist in the entire exploration course. His fingers moved with a precision that seemed almost supernatural, pulling up layers of data that transformed the main holographic display into a three-dimensional representation of the planet. The world hung before them like a jewel, approximately 1.6 times the size of Earth, with a gravity well that would require minimal terraforming. Its atmosphere showed promising compositions, oxygen levels slightly higher than Earth's standard, trace amounts of noble gases that suggested complex geological processes. The planetary surface displayed a remarkable diversity, mountain ranges that rivaled the Himalayas, vast oceanic basins, and what appeared to be extensive vegetative coverage. "Captain," Jung-Ho's voice carried a note of professional excitement. "The preliminary atmospheric composition suggests not just habitability, but potential immediate colonization capabilities." Maya leaned forward, her dark eyes narrowing. Immediate colonization was rare. Most planetary candidates required decades of preparation, atmospheric refinement, and extensive environmental engineering. This world seemed to be presenting itself like an invitation. The ship's quantum communication system pinged softly, an incoming transmission from the Exploration Corps Central Command. Maya accessed the encrypted channel, her authentication protocols engaging seamlessly. The message was brief, encoded in a multilayered quantum cipher that would take most systems hours to decrypt. Her eyes scanned the contents, and for the first time that mission, a smile crossed her lips. "Prepare a detailed initial report," she instructed Jung-Ho. "But keep the preliminary findings classified. Something tells me we're looking at more than just another planetary survey." The bridge crew exchanged glances. They had served with Maya long enough to recognize when she was onto something significant. Her hunches had a habit of turning routine missions into historical discoveries. As the Horizon's Edge continued its methodical survey, no one aboard could have predicted the extraordinary chain of events about to unfold. The quiet hum of advanced technology masked the potential for something extraordinary, a moment that would soon redefine humanity's understanding of its place in the universe. The third planet of the Kepler 452 system waited, its secrets hidden beneath a veil of quantum possibilities and unexplored potential. The Nexus Collective's primary scout vessel, Luminous Convergence, emerged from quantum transit with a precision that defied the chaotic nature of interstellar travel. Its biomechanical hull shimmered with a living iridescence, a testament to technologies that blurred the line between organic and mechanical engineering. Zarael, the vessel's primary navigator, studied the holographic displays with a mixture of professional detachment and barely contained curiosity. The Nexus Collective represented a unique collaboration of 9 distinct species, each contributing their most advanced technological and biological innovations to create something greater than any individual civilization could achieve. The quantum positioning systems mapped the star system with ruthless efficiency. Spectral analyses, quantum resonance scans, and multi-dimensional probability matrices formed a comprehensive picture that would have been incomprehensible to less advanced species. What caught Zor-El's attention was not just the planetary body that seemed to beckon with potential, but the subtle electromagnetic residues that suggested recent technological activity. "Preliminary scan complete," announced Krev, the vessel's computational symbiote. Its voice was a harmonious blend of synthetic tones and organic undertones, a perfect representation of the Nexus Collective's integrated nature, detecting technological signatures inconsistent with natural planetary development. Zor-El's manipulation tentacles, a sophisticated appendage that served as both sensory input and intricate control interface, moved across the holographic display. Layers of data peeled away, revealing more intricate details. The planetary surface showed signs of structural modifications, energy grid distributions that suggested intentional infrastructure, and atmospheric modifications that spoke of deliberate environmental management. "Interesting," Zor-El murmured, a translation matrix converting the complex biochemical communication into standard interstellar language. "We may have discovered an unexpected settlement." The Nexus Collective's protocols for planetary discovery were comprehensive and, by most galactic standards, relatively peaceful. First contact procedures involved extensive reconnaissance, diplomatic communication, and a carefully structured approach to potential resource negotiation. Centuries of interstellar exploration had taught them the value of measured response. But something about this system felt different. The quantum communication arrays began their initial probing sequences, sophisticated linguistic algorithms prepared to decode and analyze any potential communication signals. Standard protocol dictated a multi-layered approach: passive observation, mathematical communication attempts, and then progressive levels of direct contact. Krev's computational matrix suddenly tensed, a rare occurrence for an integrated biological-mechanical intelligence, detecting unexpected network intrusion countermeasures. The technological signatures do not match any known galactic civilization in our database. Zor-El's sensory tendrils bristled with a combination of professional excitement and nascent concern. Unknown variables were both a scientific opportunity and a potential threat. The luminous convergence began to execute a series of complex quantum positioning maneuvers, maintaining a strategic distance while continuing its comprehensive scan. The planetary body seemed to pulse with a hidden energy. Structural analyses revealed engineering capabilities that suggested a civilization far more advanced than initial scans had implied. Energy distribution networks showed a level of sophistication that hinted at something beyond mere colonization. This looked more like a carefully prepared defensive position. "Prepare initial communication protocols," Zor-El instructed. The Nexus Collective's diplomatic approach had successfully integrated hundreds of planetary civilizations. Mathematical communication models, quantum entanglement messaging, and multi-dimensional negotiation techniques had proven effective across countless first contact scenarios. But the universe, as always, had other plans. As the luminous convergence continued its methodical survey, something stirred on the planetary surface. A network of systems came alive, not with the chaotic energy of a surprise civilization, but with the calculated precision of a predator becoming aware of an intruder. The first shadow of what was to come was just beginning to take shape. The communication chamber of the New Horizon colony pulsed with a controlled intensity that belied the gravity of the moment. Governor Elena Rodriguez stood before a holographic display that showed the intricate quantum transmission received from the approaching alien vessel. Her team of communication specialists, Linguists and xenotechnologists worked with a precision that spoke of years of preparation. "Break down the transmission," Elena instructed, her voice calm and measured. Around her, the colony's Defense Coordination Center hummed with activity. What looked like a simple administrative complex was, in reality, a meticulously designed strategic nerve center. Dr. Hiroshi Nakamura, the colony's chief xenolinguistic analyst, manipulated the holographic data with practiced ease. Layers of mathematical sequences, quantum-encoded messages, and complex dimensional communication protocols began to unravel before their eyes. "It's a standard territorial acquisition protocol," Hiroshi explained, his fingers tracing intricate patterns in the air. "The Nexus Collective appears to be initiating a formal claim on the planetary system. Their communication is simultaneously a diplomatic overture and a subtle threat." The transmission was a masterpiece of galactic diplomacy, a multi-layered message that simultaneously offered negotiation and implied overwhelming force. Most civilizations would have seen it as an ultimatum. The New Horizon colony saw it as an opportunity. Elena studied the holographic representation of the alien vessel. Its design was unlike anything in human records, a living machine that seemed to blur the lines between technology and organic life. "Prepare our response," she said quietly. In the subterranean levels of the colony, systems that had been dormant for years began to activate. What appeared to be simple agricultural processing centers transformed. Massive energy conduits that ran beneath the planetary surface began to pulse with a carefully contained power. The colony's quantum communication specialist, Yuki Chen, worked with a speed that seemed almost prescient. "Encoding response now," she reported. "We're using their own communication protocols against them." Their response was brilliant in its simplicity, a mathematical sequence that acknowledged the transmission, but subtly embedded within it were layers of technological information that would take the Nexus Collective weeks to fully decode. It was both an invitation and a warning. Aboard the Luminous Convergence, Zoral received the response with growing confusion. The mathematical sequences didn't just respond to their communication. They seemed to be revealing something more. Hidden within the transmission were glimpses of technological capabilities that defied the Nexus Collective's comprehensive galactic database. "They're not just responding," Krev analyzed. "They're demonstrating." The quantum communication arrays began to pick up additional information. Subtle energy signatures that suggested advanced planetary defense systems. Complex technological networks that seemed to be integrated at a level far beyond standard colonization protocols. This was no ordinary settlement. Elena Rodriguez allowed herself a slight smile. The colony had been preparing for this moment for decades. Every system, every piece of infrastructure had been designed with multiple contingencies. What looked like a simple planetary settlement was, in reality, a fortress disguised as a civilization. The Nexus Collective's initial assessment began to shift. What they had believed would be a simple territorial acquisition was turning into something far more complex. The mathematical communication continued, a dance of information and subtle technological posturing. "Prepare secondary scan protocols," Zorail instructed. The vessel's advanced sensors began to probe deeper, looking for any weakness, any vulnerability in the human settlement's defenses. They would find none. The planetary system of Kepler 452 hung in space, a powder keg of potential conflict. Two civilizations, each believing in their own superiority, were about to discover something profound about the nature of preparedness, adaptation, and the unexpected. The first true test was about to begin. The true nature of New Horizon revealed itself in layers, like an intricate mechanical puzzle waiting to be understood. What appeared to be simple agricultural processing centers held secrets that would challenge everything the Nexus Collective understood about planetary settlements. Deep beneath the colony's surface, a network of tunnels and chambers wound through the planet's crust, like a complex circulatory system. Dr. Lino Ortiz, the colony's chief infrastructure architect, watched as holographic displays mapped out the extensive underground complex. Each chamber, each tunnel, had been designed with multiple purposes, a testament to human adaptability and forward-thinking strategy. The agricultural drones that dotted the planetary surface were far more than simple farming equipment. Beneath their unassuming exteriors lay sophisticated sensor arrays, adaptive camouflage systems, and modular weapon configurations. What looked like simple irrigation equipment could transform into precision targeting systems within milliseconds. Defensive matrix at 87% readiness, reported Carlos Kimura, the colony's systems integration specialist. His fingers danced across multiple holographic interfaces, each one revealing another layer of the colony's hidden capabilities. Fusion generators, originally designed for sustainable planetary development, had been ingeniously modified. Their power output could be rapidly redirected, transforming from clean energy production to powerful defensive shield generators. The entire planetary infrastructure was a living, breathing defensive system. Underground facilities that appeared to be simple geological research stations were, in reality, advanced manufacturing centers. Nanofabrication units could rapidly produce specialized equipment, adaptive armor plating, and advanced computational systems. The colony could essentially rebuild and reconfigure its entire technological infrastructure in a matter of hours. Dr. Ortiz pulled up a comprehensive systems map. Every building, every piece of infrastructure had been designed with multiple fail-safes and adaptive capabilities. Water distribution networks could become cooling systems for advanced weapon platforms. Communication relays could transform into jamming networks. Even the planetary greenhouse complexes contained sophisticated defensive technologies. The key is flexibility, she explained to a small team of senior administrators. We don't just prepare for a single scenario. We prepare for every possible scenario. The colony's quantum computing network was perhaps its most impressive feature. Distributed across multiple hidden data centers, the system could predict and model potential threats with unprecedented accuracy. Machine learning algorithms developed over decades allowed the system to adapt in real time, anticipating potential attack vectors before they could be executed. Orbital defense platforms, disguised as communication satellites, hung in strategic positions around the planet. Each one was a marvel of engineering, capable of deploying advanced defensive and offensive capabilities at a moment's notice. Quantum-entangled communication systems ensured that no single point of failure could compromise the entire network. "We're not just a colony," Carlos muttered, reviewing the latest sensor data. "We're a fortress." The agricultural zones that surrounded the main settlement were themselves a complex defensive system. Specialized drone networks could rapidly reconfigure the terrain, creating natural barriers, disrupting incoming sensor scans, and providing multiple layers of environmental camouflage. Beneath the seemingly peaceful exterior, New Horizon breathed with a calculated potential for resistance. Every system, every piece of infrastructure had been designed with one fundamental principle in mind: survival. Dr. Ortiz pulled up the latest quantum communication intercepts from the approaching Nexus collective vessel. A slight smile crossed her face. They had no idea what was waiting for them. The planet itself seemed to be waiting. Dormant systems hummed with potential energy. Adaptive technologies stood ready to transform at a moment's notice. New Horizon was more than a settlement. It was a living, breathing defensive organism. "Let them come," Carlos said quietly, reviewing the final defensive configurations. "We're ready." The universe was about to learn something profound about human preparation, resilience, and the art of turning an entire planet into an unexpected weapon. The first wave of Nexus collective strike units approached with a precision that had decimated countless civilizations. Quantum translation drives allowed them to emerge from faster-than-light transit in perfectly synchronized formations, their biomechanical hulls shimmering with adaptive camouflage technologies. Commander Weizhang stood in the primary defense coordination center, watching the incoming threat with calculated calm. The holographic displays showed multiple layers of sensor data, each representing a different aspect of the approaching alien fleet. Quantum-entangled communication systems processed information faster than any biological mind could comprehend. "Incoming vessels detected," announced Samira Patel, the colony's primary sensor specialist. Her fingers moved across holographic interfaces with a dancer's grace, tracking each alien ship's trajectory. 5 primary strike groups. Total of 17 individual vessels. The Nexus Collective's attack formation was a work of mathematical precision. Each vessel was designed to exploit specific vulnerabilities that had been proven effective against hundreds of planetary defenses. They moved like a single organism, each ship compensating for the potential weaknesses of its companions. They had no idea what awaited them. The first defensive response came not from traditional weapon systems, but from the planet itself. Massive electromagnetic pulse generators, disguised as geological survey stations, began to activate. The planetary surface seemed to ripple with potential energy, adaptive systems coming online in carefully choreographed sequences. Agricultural drone networks transformed with lightning speed. What had moments before looked like simple irrigation and farming equipment now revealed themselves as sophisticated defense platforms. Quantum-locked targeting systems came online, each drone capable of tracking multiple targets with impossible precision. Initiating first-stage defense protocols, Wei announced, his voice steady. The Nexus Collective's initial sensor sweeps failed to detect the true nature of the defense systems. Camouflage technologies developed over decades made the colony's defensive capabilities virtually invisible until the moment of engagement. Each system was designed to be indistinguishable from standard planetary infrastructure until the precise moment of activation. Orbital defense platforms, which had appeared to be simple communication satellites, began to reconfigure. Adaptive metamaterials shifted their molecular structure, revealing weapon systems that defied the Nexus Collective's comprehensive technological database. Quantum-coherent energy weapons powered up, their targeting systems so advanced they could predict enemy movement before the enemy knew its own intentions. The first alien strike units crossed the final approach vector. They expected minimal resistance, a quick subjugation of a seemingly unprepared planetary settlement. They were catastrophically wrong. The initial defensive volley came from multiple unexpected directions. Railgun platforms, disguised as mining equipment, launched hypervelocity projectiles that moved faster than the aliens' defensive systems could process. Each projectile was quantum-locked, capable of adjusting its trajectory mid-flight with impossible precision. Direct hits on primary and secondary strike groups, Samira reported, her voice a model of professional calm. 3 vessels critically damaged, 2 more showing significant systems failure. The Nexus Collective's formation began to break. Their advanced adaptive technologies, which had conquered countless civilizations, found themselves overwhelmed by a defense system that seemed to anticipate every possible countermove. Underground power distribution networks redirected massive energy reserves. What looked like standard planetary infrastructure transformed into a coordinated defensive network. Jamming systems came online, disrupting the aliens' quantum communication protocols. Each defensive measure was a layer of a complex, adaptive strategy. Commander Zhang watched the engagement with a sense of grim satisfaction. Years of preparation, decades of careful planning, were proving their worth. The colony was not just defending itself, it was demonstrating a level of technological and strategic sophistication that would reshape galactic understanding. They thought we were just another planetary settlement, Wei muttered, watching the holographic displays show the progressive destruction of the alien strike groups. The first dance of conflict was drawing to a close, and the Nexus Collective was about to learn a fundamental truth about humanity. Never underestimate a species that has learned to turn an entire planet into a weapon. Space itself seemed to ripple as the UES Horizon's edge transitioned from quantum transit. Captain Maya Suzuki watched the external sensor displays with a calm that belied the magnitude of the moment. The ship was more than a mere vessel. It was the culmination of humanity's most advanced technological achievements. The quantum translation drive left no conventional jump signature. One moment, there was nothing. The next, a warship materialized with such precision that it seemed to simply manifest from the fabric of space itself. Adaptive camouflage systems made the vessel's profile almost impossible to track, its hull constructed from metamaterials that could bend electromagnetic radiation around its structure. Tactical assessment. Maya commanded, her voice cutting through the bridge's ambient noise. Lieutenant Commander Rafael Santos began feeding tactical data across the holographic displays. The remnants of the Nexus Collective's initial strike force were still struggling to comprehend their initial defeat. Now they would face something entirely unexpected. The ship's quantum communication systems came alive. A transmission began to propagate across multiple bandwidths, encrypted with layers of mathematical complexity that would take most civilizations decades to begin to unravel. Emergency. A human warship is locking on. Evacuate now. The message was both a warning and a statement of absolute technological superiority. Each word was carefully constructed, embedded with quantum-encrypted data that simultaneously jammed alien communication systems and provided a precise tactical assessment of their vulnerabilities. Aboard the luminous Convergence, Zerael and the ship's computational symbiote Krev struggled to process the new threat. The human warship's technological signature defied every known galactic standard. Adaptive shield technologies that could reconfigure faster than the Nexus Collective's targeting systems could adapt. Weapon platforms that seemed to exist in multiple quantum states simultaneously. Maya's fingers moved across the tactical interface with surgical precision. The Horizon's Edge was not just a weapon of war. It was a living testament to human innovation. Every system was designed with multiple contingencies, capable of adapting to threats in milliseconds. Prepare quantum entanglement targeting, she instructed. The ship's weapon systems began to activate, not with the brutal simplicity of conventional armaments, but with a complexity that bordered on mathematical art. Quantum-locked projectiles prepared for launch. Each one could adjust its trajectory mid-flight, predict and counter defensive maneuvers before they could be implemented. The ship's computational core was a marvel of predictive modeling, capable of running millions of potential engagement scenarios per second. The remaining Nexus Collective vessels began to scatter. Their initial confidence had been completely shattered. The planetary defense systems below had already decimated their first strike group, and now this warship appeared, a technological nightmare that seemed to rewrite the rules of space combat. Initiating comprehensive system suppression, Lieutenant Santos reported. The Horizon's Edge began to deploy advanced electronic warfare systems. Quantum entanglement communication jammers created bubbles of absolute technological darkness. The aliens' most advanced communication and navigation systems became useless. Zerael watched in growing horror as the human warship began to systematically neutralize their remaining defensive capabilities. It wasn't just destroying their vessels, it was demonstrating a level of technological sophistication that seemed to mock their entire understanding of space combat. The quantum communication transmission continued. Each burst of data was a message, not just of military superiority, but of a fundamental difference in technological approach. Where the Nexus Collective saw technology as a tool, humans saw it as a living, adaptive organism. All systems locked, Maya said quietly. The words carried more weight than any conventional weapon. The universe was about to learn a profound lesson about humanity's true potential. This was more than a battle. It was a demonstration of a fundamentally different approach to technological innovation and strategic thinking. Horizon's Edge hung in space, a silent promise of what humanity was capable of achieving. The battle unfolded with a precision that defied conventional understanding of space combat. The remaining Nexus Collective vessels tried desperately to regroup, their quantum communication networks frantically analyzing and attempting to counter the human technological onslaught. Commander Elena Rodriguez watched from the Planetary Defense Coordination Center as the engagement reached its critical phase. Her team of specialists worked with a synchronicity that made them seem like a single, multi-minded organism. Each movement, each tactical decision was calculated with mathematical precision. Adaptive shield modulation at maximum efficiency, reported Dr. Hiroshi Nakamura, tracking the planetary defense systems. The colony's defensive network had transformed the entire planet into a living, breathing weapon system. Orbital platforms, ground-based systems, and the UES Horizon's Edge worked in perfect quantum-entangled harmony. Aboard the luminous convergence, Zoral realized the fundamental mistake of their initial assessment. This was no ordinary planetary defense. The humans had created something far more complex, a total system of technological integration that blurred the lines between planetary infrastructure, defensive capability, and offensive strategy. The Horizon's Edge began its most devastating tactical sequence. Quantum-locked projectiles launched in patterns that seemed to defy the basic laws of physics. Each missile could adjust its trajectory mid-flight, predict and counter defensive maneuvers before they could be implemented. The ship's computational core ran millions of potential engagement scenarios per second, adapting faster than the Nexus Collective could comprehend. Multiple Nexus vessels showing critical systems failure, announced Yuki Chen, the quantum communication specialist. Her fingers danced across holographic interfaces that seemed to breathe with technological life. The alien fleet's adaptive technologies, systems that had conquered countless civilizations, found themselves completely overwhelmed. What made human technology unique was not just its raw power, but its fundamental approach to problem-solving. Where the Nexus Collective saw technology as a static tool, humans treated it as a living, adaptive organism. Defensive platforms that had been disguised as simple communication satellites transformed with lightning speed. Agricultural drones became precision weapon systems. Underground facilities redirected massive energy reserves, creating defensive and offensive capabilities that materialized from seemingly innocuous infrastructure. Zoral watched in growing desperation as their most advanced vessels were systematically neutralized. The human approach to warfare was unlike anything in the galactic archives. It wasn't about overwhelming force. It was about adaptive intelligence, about turning every system into a potential weapon. Quantum entanglement communication disruption at 97%, reported Lieutenant Rafael Santos aboard the Horizon's Edge. The ship's electronic warfare systems created bubbles of absolute technological silence. The Nexus Collective's most advanced communication networks became useless, their vessels essentially blind and deaf. The planetary surface of Kepler 452 became a canvas of technological warfare. Energy weapons that looked like simple geological survey equipment transformed into precision targeting systems. Water distribution networks became cooling systems for advanced weapon platforms. Every piece of infrastructure was a potential weapon. They're not just defending, Commander Rodriguez muttered, watching the tactical displays. They're teaching a lesson. The final stage of the engagement was less a battle and more a surgical demonstration of technological superiority. The Horizon's Edge moved with a grace that seemed to mock the concept of space combat. Its weapon systems were so advanced that they could predict and neutralize threats before those threats could even be conceived. In the span of less than 2 standard hours, the entire Nexus Collective strike force had been completely neutralized. Not destroyed, neutralized. Each vessel was carefully disabled, its critical systems rendered inoperable with a precision that suggested the humans could have completely annihilated them at any moment. It was a message, a demonstration. As the last Nexus vessel lost its offensive capabilities, a single transmission went out. Not a declaration of victory, but an invitation to dialogue. The humans had shown their capabilities. Now they were offering a chance for understanding. The universe would never look at humanity the same way again. The diplomatic chamber of the Nexus Collective's central administrative complex fell silent as the transmission from Kepler 452 played. Holographic displays showed the comprehensive analysis of the recent engagement, a battle that had redefined galactic understanding of technological warfare. Krelvos, the primary diplomatic coordinator, watched with a mixture of professional dismay and academic fascination. The human transmission was not a typical victory declaration. It was an invitation, a complex mathematical and linguistic communication that simultaneously demonstrated technological superiority and a willingness to engage in meaningful dialogue. The level of technological integration is unprecedented, reported Dr. Shen Liu, the collective's chief xenotechnological analyst. Her holographic projection displayed multiple layers of data, each revealing another aspect of human technological capability that defied previous galactic models. The transmission from the human colony was a masterpiece of diplomatic communication. It outlined not just the technical details of the recent engagement, but provided a comprehensive framework for potential interstellar cooperation. Where most civilizations would have demanded unconditional surrender, the humans were offering a path to mutual understanding. Governor Elena Rodriguez stood in the colony's primary communication center, carefully monitoring the diplomatic response. The engagement had been more than a defensive action. It was a calculated demonstration of human potential. "We're not looking for conquest," she explained to her senior staff. "We're looking to establish a new paradigm of interstellar interaction." The Nexus Collective's initial assessment had been catastrophically wrong. What they had believed to be a simple planetary settlement was a carefully prepared defensive system that transformed an entire planet into a living, adaptive weapon. Every piece of infrastructure, every technological system had been designed with multiple contingencies and a level of adaptive intelligence that challenged fundamental galactic understanding. Zarael, the former navigator of the Luminous Convergence, now served as the primary analyst for the diplomatic team studying the human engagement. Their report was unlike any in the collective's history. A detailed breakdown of a technological approach that seemed to rewrite the rules of interstellar conflict. The humans had not just defended themselves. They had demonstrated a fundamentally different approach to technology, warfare, and interstellar relations. Where the Nexus Collective saw technology as a tool to be wielded, humans treated it as a living, adaptive organism. Every system was designed to learn, to adapt, to evolve. Captain Maya Suzuki of the UES Horizon's Edge prepared the final diplomatic communication. It was a complex document that was simultaneously a technical report, a diplomatic overture, and a subtle demonstration of technological capabilities. Mathematical sequences were embedded within linguistic structures, creating a communication that was both an invitation and a warning. The quantum communication networks began to pulse with a new kind of energy. The engagement had changed everything. For the Nexus Collective, the encounter represented a fundamental shift in understanding. Their technological models, which had been considered absolute for centuries, now seemed hopelessly outdated. The humans had demonstrated a level of adaptive intelligence that challenged everything they believed about technological development. "We are offering a partnership," Elena Rodriguez's transmission stated, "not a submission." The diplomatic team analyzed every microsecond of the communication. It was an invitation to a new form of interstellar cooperation, one based on mutual respect, technological exchange, and a recognition of fundamental differences. Krulvos realized that this was more than a first contact scenario. This was the beginning of a new chapter in galactic history. The humans had not just defended themselves, they had fundamentally changed the understanding of what was possible. As the final diplomatic communications were processed, one thing became clear. The universe had just been introduced to a civilization that would change everything. The Kepler 452 system hung in space, a beacon of a new potential future. Not a future of conquest, but a future of unprecedented possibility.